The breakthrough you've been praying for, crying for, hoping for, it's not waiting on your emotions. It's not waiting for the perfect moment, the right mood, or a sign from the sky. Your breakthrough is waiting on your discipline, your consistency, your ability to keep moving forward even when everything in you wants to quit. Too often we sit at the edge of our promise, right on the border of our destiny, waiting for a feeling to push us forward. But feelings are fickle, they change with the wind. One day you're fired up and ready to conquer the world, and the next life hits you. Distractions come and suddenly your motivation disappears. But listen to me, your destiny does not run on your emotions. It runs on your decisions. The decision to show up, the decision to keep building, the decision to keep pushing when your body is tired, your spirit is weary, and your mind is screaming. Maybe I should just stop. I know it's hard. I know the weight feels heavy. I know you've been battling self-doubt, frustration, and delay. But hear me when I say this. Your consistency is the bridge between where you are and where God has called you to be. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not a one-time burst of motivation. It is the steady, unwavering commitment to keep going, even when you don't see immediate results. Look at the walls of Jericho. God didn't tell Joshua to march around the city once and then stop. He said a march for 7 days. 7 days of walking, 7 days of obeying, 7 days of consistency without a single sign that anything was changing. But on the 7th day, after they had been faithful, after they had been obedient, after they had remained consistent, the walls fell. Some of you are walking, but because you don't see the walls cracking yet, you think nothing is happening. But can I tell you? Every step you take is shifting something in the spirit. Every prayer you pray is laying bricks in the foundation of your breakthrough. Every act of obedience, every disciplined decision, every moment you choose to keep going even when you don't feel like it, it's all building momentum for your breakthrough. The enemy wants you to believe that what you're doing doesn't matter, that your consistency is pointless, that your prayers are hitting the ceiling, that your efforts are in vain. But let me expose the lie of the enemy. God is not a man that he should lie. If he called you to it, he will see you through it. If he gave you the vision, he will make provision. But you have to stay in position. You have to remain faithful to the process. You have to keep showing up. Stop letting your emotions dictate your actions. Stop waiting until you feel like it. You don't brush your teeth because you feel like it. You do it because it's necessary. You don't go to work because you feel like it. You go because you have responsibilities. And in the same way, you can't afford to treat your purpose like an option. It's a necessity. It's an assignment. It's the very thing God placed in you to shift lives, to break chains, to bring heaven to earth. So what will you do? Will you stay stuck in the cycle of stopping and starting? Or will you decide today that you are going to be consistent? That you will keep pressing, keep moving, keep believing. Keep believing. Because when you do, when you refuse to quit, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you push past the feeling of I don't feel like it and do it anyway, that's when the shift happens. That's when doors open. That's when breakthroughs are unlocked. Your future is waiting on you to stop playing with your purpose and start walking in your discipline. Don't let inconsistency rob you of what God has promised. Keep going, keep building, keep believing. Because if you stay faithful, if you keep pressing, if you remain consistent, the walls will fall. The doors will open, the breakthrough will come. And you'll look back and realize that everything you prayed for was always on the other side of your consistency. You have been called for more. You have been anointed for more. But as long as you keep negotiating with your excuses, you will never step into the fullness of what God has placed inside of you. How many times have you talked yourself out of what God has already said is yours? How many times have you let your circumstances, your fears, your doubts, and your insecurities dictate your obedience? You say you want it, you say you're ready. But when it gets hard, when the pressure comes, when the journey gets uncomfortable, when the process demands more of you than you expected, you start making excuses. I'm tired. I don't have the resources. I don't feel qualified. Maybe this isn't my time. But can I tell you something? Every time you negotiate with your excuses, you are delaying your breakthrough. Every time you let your emotions dictate your actions, you are pushing back the very thing you've been praying for. Because growth does not come from convenience. Power is not developed in comfort. Purpose is not fulfilled in the place of passivity. Look at Moses. He had every excuse in the book. Lord, I can't speak well. They won't listen to me. I'm not the one for this assignment. But God didn't entertain his excuses. God didn't allow him to back down from his calling just because it was uncomfortable. Instead, he said, I will be with you. And that was enough. What if I told you that the thing you're running from is the very thing that God is going to use to elevate you? What if I told you that the struggle you're avoiding is the very process that is shaping you for your next level? What if I told you that if you would just stop negotiating with your excuses, if you would just show up even when it's hard, if you would just push through even when you don't feel like it, there is something on the other side that will blow your mind. God didn't put that dream in you for you to bury it in excuses. He didn't call you to something greater for you to keep shrinking back every time it gets difficult. He didn't place that vision inside of you for you to let fear and doubt talk you out of it. You are sitting on potential. You are sitting on gifts. You are sitting on prayers that your ancestors cried out for. You are sitting on something that the enemy is terrified of. And that's why he keeps feeding you excuses. That's why the distractions keep coming. That's why you keep second guessing yourself. Because the enemy knows that if you ever stop negotiating with your excuses, if you ever push past the discomfort, if you ever fully surrender to what God is calling you to do, then the chains break. The doors open, the opportunities come, and you become unstoppable. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's not asking you to have it all figured out. He's not even asking you to feel ready. He's asking you to be faithful, to trust him, to move even when it doesn't make sense, to step out even when you're afraid. Because obedience will take you places that talent never could. Faith will open doors that excuses will keep locked. Stop waiting for easy. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop waiting for a moment that feels comfortable. It will never feel comfortable. The calling is too big for comfort. The anointing is too weighty for convenience. If you are going to see the full power of what God has placed inside of you, you have to be willing to push through when it's hard. You have to be willing to work when no one is clapping. You have to be willing to show up when the results don't come overnight. No more waiting. No more second guessing. No more talking yourself out of what God has already given you the grace to do. Your purpose is not up for debate. Your destiny is not open for negotiation. You are too called, too gifted, too anointed to be held back by excuses. So today, make the decision. No more negotiations. No more allowing fear to rob you. No more waiting until you feel ready. Show up, push through, step in. Because when you do, you will see that everything you've been praying for, everything you've been hoping for, everything you've been believing for, it was never waiting on God. It was never waiting on a sign. It was waiting on you. How many times have you stood on the edge of your breakthrough only to talk yourself out of it? How many times have you let fear, doubt, and hesitation convince you to back down? You knew what God was calling you to do. You knew the door was open. You knew the opportunity was yours. But instead of stepping forward in faith, you started negotiating with your excuses. I'm not ready yet. What if I fail? What if they don't support me? I don't have enough experience. It's just not the right time. But can I tell you something? Every time you negotiate with your excuses, you are bargaining away your destiny. You are delaying your purpose. You are putting a price on your calling, and that price is comfort. That price is fear. That price is settling for less than what God has for you. God did not create you for comfort. He did not place gifts inside of you for them to stay buried under excuses. He did not call you to this moment for you to shrink back when it gets hard. If you only show up when it's easy, if you only press forward when it's convenient, if you only step out when you feel completely ready, you will never see the full power of what God has placed inside of you. Look at David. Before he was King David, before he was the mighty warrior that people sang songs about, he was just a shepherd boy. A boy tending to sheep when a giant named Goliath came onto the scene. And everyone else, the warriors, the trained fighters, the ones who were supposed to be ready, stood on the sidelines because fear had convinced them that they weren't capable. But David didn't negotiate with his excuses. He didn't say, I'm too young. He didn't say, I don't have the right armor. He didn't say, and maybe someone else is better equipped. No, he said, the same God who delivered me before will deliver me again. And he stepped forward. He moved. He refused to let excuses rob him of what God had already called him to do. What are you letting stop you? What fear have you allowed to paralyze you? What insecurity have you allowed to keep you stagnant? Because let me tell you, the enemy doesn't have to destroy you. He doesn't have to take your calling away. All he has to do is convince you to sit on it. All he has to do is whisper enough lies to make you question what God already confirmed. But today you make a decision. Today you choose to move even when you don't feel like it. Today you choose to push through the doubt, push through the fear, push through the resistance and say, God, I will not negotiate with what you've called me to do. Because here's the truth. God has already given you everything you need. The anointing is already on you. The purpose is already inside of you. The ability is already there. You're waiting for perfect conditions, but God is waiting for your obedience. You're waiting for the fear to disappear, but faith is moving even in the presence of fear. You're waiting for validation, but God already qualified you when He called you. Excuses will keep you stagnant. Excuses will rob you of your joy. Excuses will keep you circling the same mountain over and over again, wondering why nothing is changing. But the moment you decide to stop negotiating with them, the moment you say, no more, everything shifts. You have prayed for this. You have cried for this. You have fasted and believed for this. Don't let fear make you forfeit the promise. Don't let insecurity make you miss your moment. Don't let comfort make you settle for less than God's best for your life. It's time to move. It's time to show up. It's time to trust God and take the step, even when you don't have all the answers. Because when you do, you will see that He has been waiting on you the whole time, waiting for you to say yes, waiting for you to step forward, waiting for you to trust that what He placed inside of you is greater than any excuse you've been holding on to. So no more waiting, no more second guessing. No more playing small. The calling is too great. The assignment is too big, and the purpose is too powerful. It's time to walk in it. It's time to believe in it. It's time to move, because everything you've been praying for is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Every great transformation begins with one small decision, one small step, one moment where you decide that you will not stay where you are. And I need you to hear me. What you do daily will shape who you become permanently. You can't just wish for change. You can't just pray for change. You have to walk in it. Because too often we want the shift, but we don't want the steps. We want the promise, but we don't want the process. We want the success, the healing, the breakthrough, but we don't want to show up in the small, mundane, unseen places where true transformation begins. But let me tell you something, your breakthrough is not in the grand moments. It's in the daily choices, the ones nobody claps for. The ones nobody notices. The moments when you decide to keep going, keep praying, keep pushing, even when you don't feel like it. Even when it feels like nothing is changing. The enemy wants you to believe that your small steps don't matter. That because you don't see instant results, you might as well give up. But that's a lie. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, faith over fear, obedience over excuses, you are shifting something in the spirit. Look at the children of Israel. God told them that the promised land was theirs, that He had already given it to them. But did they just walk in and claim it? No. God told them to march around the walls of Jericho once a day for 6 days. And on the 7th day, march 7 times. No swords, no fighting, no big display of power, just steps, just obedience, just small, seemingly insignificant movements that eventually brought down walls that had been standing for generations. Some of you are standing in front of walls that seem unbreakable. You've been praying, you've been waiting, but you don't see any cracks. And the enemy is trying to convince you that your obedience isn't working, that your prayers aren't making a difference, that your effort is wasted. But I need you to hear me. Every step you take is shaking something in the atmosphere. Every time you choose to wake up and pursue what God placed inside of you, the enemy trembles. Every time you refuse to quit, the walls get weaker. You may not see it yet, but keep walking, keep moving, keep trusting that what God promised will come to pass. Because the truth is, God honors consistency. He blesses faithfulness. He doesn't just look at what you do once. He looks at what you do daily. And if you want to see a shift in your life, you have to shift what you do on a daily basis. Do you want to grow spiritually? Then stop waiting for a perfect moment to pray and start spending time with God daily. Even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning, even if it's just one scripture before you start your day, small steps, big shifts. Do you want to be stronger mentally? Then stop feeding your mind negativity. Stop entertaining the thoughts that tell you you're not enough. Stop scrolling through comparison, drowning in self-doubt, and start speaking life over yourself. Start declaring God's promises. Start renewing your mind every single day. Small steps, big shifts. Do you want to be healthier? Then stop waiting for the perfect Monday, the perfect month, the perfect season. Start today. Start with one meal, one workout, one decision to take care of your body. Small steps, big shifts. Because every great thing is built in the small moments. Every strong foundation is laid brick by brick. You will not wake up one day magically changed. You will wake up one day and realize that the small decisions you made daily have transformed you into someone different. God is not asking you to have it all figured out today. He's just asking you to take the step. He's just asking you to trust Him with the process. He's just asking you to move forward, even if it's small, even if it's slow, even if it's imperfect. Because what you do today, you become tomorrow. What you do daily will shape who you are permanently. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to let inconsistency rob me of my destiny. I refuse to let laziness keep me from what God has for me. I refuse to let small excuses block the big things God wants to do in my life. So today you choose. Today you decide. Today you take the step, trusting that even the smallest act of obedience is building something powerful in your future. Keep going, keep pressing, because your small steps are leading to a big shift. The enemy is not intimidated by your potential. He is not shaken by your dreams. He is not worried about your purpose. He is only threatened when you decide to be consistent. Because as long as you keep starting and stopping, as long as you keep hesitating and questioning, as long as you keep pausing every time it gets hard, the enemy knows he still has access to you. But I came to tell somebody today that the time for wavering is over. The time for hesitating is done. Because every time you stop and start, every time you take one step forward and then let doubt pull you 2 steps back, you give the enemy room to whisper lies into your spirit. You know those lies, the ones that say you'll never be consistent. You always give up. What's the point in even trying? Lies that sound like your own voice but are designed to keep you stuck in cycles. Because the enemy thrives in your inconsistency. He feeds off your hesitation. He waits for the moment when you start questioning if God really called you, if you're really capable, if you're really strong enough to see this thing through. He doesn't have to destroy you. All he has to do is distract you. He doesn't have to pull you into full rebellion. All he has to do is get you to delay your obedience. And the more you delay, the more you hesitate, the more you put off what God has told you to do, the more room you give him to work in your life. This is why the attacks have been so heavy. This is why every time you try to be consistent, something comes to knock you off track. Because the enemy knows that if you ever make up your mind, if you ever decide that quitting is not an option, if you ever stop negotiating with your excuses and stay the course, he won't be able to stop what God is doing in your life. So what does he do? He sends distractions. He makes you feel overwhelmed. He makes you feel like it's not working fast enough. He plants seeds of frustration, anxiety, impatience, anything to make you question whether you should keep going. But I came to tell you today, stay the course. Because every time you keep going when you feel like quitting, every time you show up when nobody is watching, every time you choose discipline over doubt, faith over fear, consistency over comfort, you are breaking the enemy's grip on your destiny. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together. But you do have to be consistent. Look at David. When God called him, he didn't call him from the palace. He called him from the pasture. David was out in the field tending sheep. He wasn't in the spotlight. He wasn't getting applause. He wasn't getting recognition. But he was faithful in the small things. He was consistent in the quiet places. And because he was consistent when nobody was watching, God knew he could trust him when it was time for elevation. Some of you are frustrated because you don't see the results yet. You don't see the fruit of your consistency. But God says, keep tending your field. Keep showing up. Keep being faithful in the small things, because I'm watching how you handle the process before I take you to the promise. Some of you have been asking God for more, but you haven't been faithful with what's already in your hands. You want the blessing, but can you be consistent in the preparation? You want the breakthrough, but can you be disciplined in the waiting? Because let me tell you, the enemy isn't afraid of people who start strong. He's afraid of people who finish. He's afraid of people who don't let discouragement stop them. He's afraid of people who keep going even when it's hard, because those are the people who see promises fulfilled. Those are the people who walk into destiny. Those are the people who make hell nervous. So today I need you to make a decision. Not just to start, but to stay, to commit, to refuse to let the enemy use inconsistency as an open door to plant doubt and fear in your life. Because every time you keep going, every time you refuse to quit, every time you get up after falling, you are declaring to the enemy, you don't win here. You don't get to stop what God is doing in my life. No more stopping and starting. No more back and forth. No more letting distractions detour you from destiny. Because consistency is the weapon the enemy cannot fight against. Consistency is what will separate you from everyone who gave up too soon. Consistency is what will take you from potential to purpose. So stay the course, keep moving forward. Because the enemy cannot stop a person who refuses to quit. You've been praying, you've been asking, you've been seeking. But the real question is, are you willing to work? Because faith without follow through is wasted. It's like asking God for rain but refusing to dig a well. It's like declaring that you're ready for breakthrough but never showing up for the battle. And some of us have been crying out for a move of God, but we're sitting still when He tells us to step forward. You prayed for the opportunity, but will you prepare for it? You prayed for the business, but will you discipline yourself to run it? You prayed for the relationship, but will you do the work to heal? God is not just in the business of answering prayers. He's in the business of preparing vessels. He's looking for people who won't just believe, but will build. People who won't just receive, but will respond. People who won't just desire, but will demonstrate. Because when God places something in your hands, He expects you to move. How many doors has God opened that you refuse to walk through? How many opportunities has He placed in front of you that you allowed fear, doubt, or laziness to steal from you? We love to shout about the promise, but are we willing to push through the process? Are we willing to show up when it's hard? To stay committed when it's uncomfortable? To keep building when nobody is clapping? Faith is not just a feeling, it's an action. It's movement. It's persistence. It's saying to God, I trust you. And because I trust you, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to keep walking, even when I don't see results yet. Because faith without works is dead. We love to say a God is going to do it. But what if God is saying, I already gave you everything you need. Now you move. What if God is waiting on you to activate what He already placed inside of you? Some of us keep waiting on a sign, waiting on confirmation, waiting for it to be easy. But let me tell you something. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat. If you're feeling resistance, if you're facing opposition, if every time you try to step out, something tries to pull you back, that's not a sign to stop. That's a sign that your breakthrough is on the other side of your follow through. Look at Nehemiah. When God gave him the vision to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, he didn't sit around waiting for it to magically happen. He worked. He fought opposition. He battled critics. He dealt with distractions, but he kept building. Some of you started building, but when resistance came, you put the tools down. You let fear stop you. You let discouragement delay you. But God says, pick the tools back up. Get back to work. Because the promise is still there. But it requires your persistence. God doesn't just reward faith, He rewards faithfulness. He rewards the ones who show up even when they don't feel like it. The ones who pray but also prepare. The ones who believe but also build. The ones who don't just start but see it through. You've been asking for a move of God, but have you moved? Have you positioned yourself? Have you prepared for what you've been praying for? Because God is not going to pour new blessings into unprepared hands. He's not going to release something you're not ready to receive. If you're believing for something, act like it's already on the way. You say you want the job, Start working on your skills now. You say you want the breakthrough. Start showing up now. You say you want the increase. Start managing what you have now. Because the truth is, God has already answered your prayer, but the manifestation is waiting on your movement. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another sign. You need to follow through. The enemy's greatest strategy is not to stop you from believing. It's to stop you from building. Because if he can keep you stuck in a cycle of waiting, doubting, and hesitating, he knows you'll never walk into what God has for you. But today is the day that cycle breaks. Today is the day you say no more excuses, no more hesitation, no more delays. I will pray and prepare. I will believe and build. I will trust and take action, because faith without follow-through is wasted, and you were never meant to live a life of wasted potential. You were never meant to just dream. You were meant to do. So take the step. Move in faith, because when you walk in obedience, when you commit to the process, when you refuse to quit, you will see the hand of God move in ways you never imagined. You've been waiting to feel it. You've been waiting for that spark, that surge of energy, that perfect moment when everything lines up and you finally feel ready. But what if I told you that you don't need motivation? You need commitment. Because feelings fade, desire comes and goes. Motivation is like the wind. It shifts, it changes. It's here today and gone tomorrow. But commitment will take you places that motivation never could. Some of us have been waiting for a feeling when God is waiting for faithfulness. We say, I don't feel like it today. But let me ask you this. What if your breakthrough is on the other side of discipline? What if your next level isn't about waiting for inspiration, but about showing up anyway? Because if you only pray when you feel like it, if you only work when it's easy, if you only press forward when you're excited, then you will never see the full power of what God has placed inside of you. Look at an athlete. An athlete doesn't train only when they're in the mood. They don't wake up every morning and ask themselves, do I feel like running today? Do I feel like training today? No. They show up regardless of how they feel because they know that discipline builds strength and strength builds victory. And some of us are losing battles not because we don't have the talent, not because we don't have the calling, but because we haven't trained ourselves to stay the course. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you if he can distract you. He doesn't have to block your blessing if he can convince you to quit before it comes. He doesn't have to stop God's plan if he can just make you inconsistent. And that's why some of us feel stuck. Not because God isn't moving, but because we keep stopping. We get excited for a season and then we fall off. We start strong, and then we let frustration, disappointment, or laziness pull us away. But God is looking for faithfulness. He's looking for people who will show up even when they don't feel like it. People who will keep pushing, keep pressing, keep believing even when it's hard. The Bible says, "Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap, if you do not faint." That if means the promise is conditional. That means that the harvest is already assigned to your name, but whether or not you receive it depends on your consistency. Will you keep going when nobody's watching? Will you keep pushing when the results don't come as fast as you want? Will you be faithful in the unseen so that God can reward you in the open? Some of us are one level of discipline away from a breakthrough. One level of consistency away from stepping into the very thing we've been praying for. But the problem is, we keep waiting for a feeling when God is calling for a decision to commit, a decision to be faithful, a decision to build even when no one is clapping. It's time to stop depending on motivation and start standing on obedience. You don't pray because you feel like it. You pray because you need God every day. You don't work on your vision only when you're inspired. You work on it because God gave you an assignment. You don't show up only when people are supporting you. You show up because your purpose is bigger than people's opinions. Look at Noah. He built the ark when there was no rain. Can you imagine the voices? The people laughing? The doubts in his own mind? But he built anyway. And some of you are waiting for confirmation when God is waiting for consistency. Some of you are waiting for applause when God is saying, just obey. Because it's not about what you feel. It's about what you've been called to do. It's about who you are becoming. It's about staying the course even when everything in you wants to quit. Discipline will take you where desire never could. Commitment will carry you when motivation fails. And if you can just stay the course, if you can just remain faithful, if you can just keep pressing forward, you will walk into everything that God has for you. Nobody sees the late nights when you're still working, when your eyes are heavy, but your spirit won't let you quit. Nobody sees the mornings when you wake up tired, but you press forward anyway, because there is something inside of you that won't let you settle. Nobody sees the moments when doubt creeps in, when fear whispers, "What if you're wasting your time?" But you choose to keep going because deep down, you know that God didn't bring you this far just to leave you here. The world celebrates the stage, but greatness is formed in the unseen places. The late nights, the early mornings, the sacrifices that nobody will ever clap for. The hours of prayer that nobody will ever witness. The silent battles that you fight behind closed doors. It's in those moments, the ones that don't get likes, that don't get recognition, that nobody even knows about, where your future is being built. David didn't become a warrior on the battlefield. He became a warrior when nobody was watching, tending sheep, fighting lions and bears in the fields when no one even knew his name. And some of you feel overlooked. You feel like your work is going unnoticed. You feel like nobody sees the effort you're putting in. But let me remind you, God sees. And He is building something in you in the secret place that will be revealed in the right season. The problem is we want public results without private discipline. We want the victory without the training. We want the reward without the preparation. But the truth is, what you do when nobody is watching will determine who you are when everybody is watching. Character is built in the unseen. Integrity is built when you choose to do right even when no one will ever know. Strength is built when you keep going even when no one is clapping for you. Some of you have been waiting for validation, waiting for someone to acknowledge your work, waiting for confirmation that what you're doing matters. But let me tell you, it matters every moment of sacrifice. Every decision to keep pushing, every time you said yes to the process, even when it felt like it wasn't working, it matters. Because the oil doesn't flow without the pressing. The diamond doesn't shine without the pressure. The strength doesn't come without the resistance. And some of you have been praying for breakthrough, but God is saying, I'm building you in private so you can handle the weight of your destiny in public. You don't get to skip the process. You don't get to fast track the foundation. Because if you do, you might find yourself standing on a platform that your character is not strong enough to hold up. And that's why God is saying, hey, keep working when no one sees. Keep praying when it feels like nothing is changing. Keep showing up because your future is being built in the moments that nobody sees. Some of you have been frustrated because you're putting in the effort, but you're not seeing the results. You're wondering, God, when will I see the fruit of my labor? And God is saying, trust the process. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not working. Just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not growing. The roots grow before the tree ever rises. The foundation is laid before the house is ever seen. And God is making sure that what He is building in you is deep enough, strong enough, and unshakable enough to stand the weight of the calling on your life. So don't get weary. Don't let discouragement make you quit. Don't let the fact that nobody sees your effort make you think it doesn't matter. The private battles are preparing you for public victories. The quiet, unseen moments are where your strength is forged. There will be a day when people look at you and say, how did you get there? How did you become so strong? How did you walk into this level of favor? And they won't know about the nights you cried, the days you wanted to quit, the hours you prayed when it felt like nothing was happening. But God knows. And because you stayed the course, because you remained faithful, because you didn't give up when it was hard, you will walk into everything that He has prepared for you. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Transformation doesn't come from sitting in the familiar. And yet, so many of us are praying for elevation while still clinging to the places that make us feel safe. We say we want God to take us higher, but we don't want to let go of what's beneath us. We say we want to grow, but the moment things get uncomfortable, we start looking for a way out. But let me tell you something, discomfort is the cost of growth. You cannot stay the same and expect to move forward. You cannot hold on to comfort and still walk into destiny. If God is stretching you, if He's pulling you out of your familiar, if everything around you feels unsettled, that's not a sign that you're losing. It's a sign that you're growing. Look at a seed. A seed doesn't turn into a tree in the light. It grows beneath the soil, in the dark, in the dirt, in the unseen places. It has to break before it can become what it was created to be. Some of you feel like you're breaking, like everything around you is shifting in ways you don't understand. But what if I told you that God isn't breaking you to destroy you? He's breaking you to grow you. The problem is, we have been conditioned to avoid pain. We have been taught that when something hurts, it must be bad. That if something is hard, we should walk away. But growth is never painless. Strength is never built without resistance. Purpose is never found without sacrifice. And some of you are running from the very thing that God is using to prepare you. You're praying for deliverance from a situation that was never meant to break you but to build you. Look at the story of Joseph. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, lied on, locked in a prison. And yet, in every season of discomfort, God was positioning him. What if Joseph had given up in the prison? What if he had decided that the discomfort was too much? He never would have seen the palace. Some of you are in a pit season right now, and you're questioning God, asking, why me? Why is this happening? But what if God is saying, trust me, I'm using this to build you. I'm using this to take you somewhere you couldn't go on your own. The problem is we don't like the process. We want the promise without the pruning. We want the reward without the refinement. But God is saying, I can't take you to the next level if you're still clinging to the last one. Growth requires stretching. It requires leaving some things, some places, some relationships behind. It requires trusting God when nothing makes sense. And let's be honest, growth is lonely sometimes. When God starts calling you higher, there will be people who don't understand it. There will be moments when you feel isolated, like you don't fit in where you used to. And that's because you weren't meant to. Some of you are trying to hold on to people that God is calling you to release. Bolsi, you're trying to stay small to make others comfortable. But let me tell you something. If you have to shrink to fit, it's not your size. Stop resisting the stretch just because it's uncomfortable. I need you to hear this today. Discomfort is proof that you are moving. You were never meant to stay in the same place. You were never meant to settle. You were never meant to live beneath your potential. And the reason it feels uncomfortable is because God is expanding you. Imagine an eagle in a nest. The nest is warm. The nest is familiar. The nest is safe. But at some point, the mother stirs the nest. She makes it uncomfortable. She makes it so the baby eagle can't rest where it used to. Why? Because the eagle was never meant to stay in the nest. The eagle was meant to fly. Some of you have been crying over the stirring, wondering why things are shifting, why it feels like you're losing your comfort. But God is stirring your nest because He knows you were meant to soar. So here's my question to you. Will you trust Him? Will you trust Him when the process is uncomfortable? Will you trust Him when the road doesn't make sense? Will you trust that everything He is doing is preparing you for the place He has called you to be? I know it's hard. I know it hurts. I know you feel like you're being stretched in ways you didn't expect. But hear me, don't run from the discomfort. Lean into it. Because on the other side of this pain, on the other side of this season, there is purpose, there is promise, there is power. This is not the time to retreat. This is not the time to quit. This is the time to step into everything that God has for you. Because the pain of staying the same is far worse than the pain of growth. And God didn't bring you this far to leave you here. He is pushing you. He is stretching you. And if you stay the course, if you endure, if you trust Him through the discomfort, you will walk into everything He has promised. Your life is not built in the big, dramatic moments. It is built in the small, unseen habits that you practice every single day. Your future is not waiting in some far-off miracle. It's hidden in your routine. The way you spend your time, the disciplines you cultivate, the choices you make when no one is watching. That is what's shaping your destiny. We keep looking for breakthrough, for some sudden shift, for God to open the floodgates and pour out blessings. But what if I told you that your breakthrough is not waiting on God? It's waiting on you. It's waiting on you to be consistent. It's waiting on you to show up. It's waiting on you to stop quitting every time it gets hard. We love to shout about destiny, but we don't like to talk about discipline. We want to be successful, but we don't want to sacrifice comfort. We want the results without the routine. But let me tell you something. The people who win, the people who walk in the fullness of what God has for them, are not the people who always feel like it. They are the people who do it anyway. They pray when they don't feel like praying. They work when they don't feel like working. They show up when they don't feel like showing up. And let me ask you something. What are your habits saying about your future? Because your habits are prophetic. They are speaking into the direction of your life. Your habits are either pushing you toward destiny or they are pulling you into defeat. There is no in between. Every decision you make is a step either forward or backward. Look at your routine. Look at how you spend your time. Are you setting yourself up for success or are you self-sabotaging? Are you building the kind of habits that align with the calling on your life? Or are you making excuses? Because it doesn't matter how much you pray if you refuse to put in the work. See, it doesn't matter how much you want it if you won't commit to daily disciplines. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you if he can distract you. If he can keep you locked in cycles of inconsistency, if he can keep you chasing quick fixes instead of long-term faithfulness, if he can get you to prioritize your comfort over your calling, he has already won. Because success is not about one big moment. It's about what you do daily. It's about faithfulness in the small things. Think about David. We love to talk about David defeating Goliath. But do you know where David learned to fight? In the fields when nobody was watching. Before he ever faced a giant, he had already mastered consistency. He was already disciplined in prayer, in worship, and work. So when the moment of battle came, he didn't have to get ready. He was already ready. Some of us are waiting for an opportunity to show up, but God is waiting for us to prepare. Because if the door opened today, would your habits be strong enough to sustain it? The weight of your destiny requires daily discipline. Your prayer life matters. Your mindset matters. What you feed your spirit matters. What you listen to, what you watch, how you speak to yourself, all of it is shaping you. You don't just become great, you build great habits. You don't just step into success, you show up daily and put in the work. And let me be real with you. Some of us need to stop praying for what we won't prepare for. Stop asking God for a platform if you're not disciplining your mind. Stop asking for financial blessings if you won't steward what you have. Stop asking for a new season if you refuse to let go of old habits. It's time to get serious. It's time to stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline. It's time to recognize that your routine is either aligning with your purpose or pulling you away from it. It's time to stop making excuses and start making moves. And I know it's not easy. I know it's hard to stay consistent when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you don't see results right away. But hear me, your faithfulness in the unseen places is where God is preparing you for the spotlight. What you do in private will always be revealed in public. What you invest in the secret place will always manifest in the open. So don't wait until you feel like it. Don't wait until it's easy. Start now. Stay committed. And watch how God moves. There are going to be days when you don't feel like it. Days when the fire that once burned bright inside you feels like nothing more than a flicker. Days when doubt creeps in, when frustration weighs heavy, when the dream that once felt so real now feels so far away. And in those moments, the enemy whispers, "Give up, it's not working. It's not worth it." But hear me, you don't stop just because it doesn't feel easy. You don't walk away just because it doesn't make sense yet. You show up until it clicks. You press through until what felt foreign becomes familiar. You push past the doubt, past the hesitation, past the weariness, because consistency is the key to breakthrough. Look at a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they wobble and tip over, but they don't stop. They don't sit down and say, "Maybe walking isn't for me." No, they get back up again and again until one day something shifts. Their legs catch up to what their mind already knew. They were created for more than crawling. And I need you to understand this. You were created for more than crawling. You were created for more than giving up every time it gets hard. You were created to walk boldly, to stand firmly, to move with purpose and power. But the only way you get there is if you keep showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't see progress, even when every part of you is screaming to quit. There is something about repetition that builds resilience, something about showing up again and again that transforms you. Because every time you push past the resistance, every time you refuse to back down, something inside of you grows, your faith grows, your strength grows, your confidence grows. And let's be real, We love the idea of results, but we don't always love the process. We love the idea of walking in purpose, but we don't always love the steps it takes to get there. We love the idea of success, but we don't always love the struggle that comes before the victory. But you cannot have one without the other. You cannot reach your destiny without discipline. You cannot access the promise without persistence. Think about Joshua and the walls of Jericho. God gave him a promise, but he also gave him an instruction. March. Not once, not twice, but 7 days. 7 long, exhausting days of walking in circles, seeing no change, hearing no shift, but obeying anyway. And on that final day, when they had done exactly as God commanded, the walls fell. Some of you are 1 lap away from your breakthrough, but you're getting tired. You're questioning if it's even worth it. You're ready to stop because you don't see movement yet. But what if Joshua had stopped on the 6th lap? What if he had said, and nothing's happening, so I'm done? He would have missed the miracle that was already in motion. And that's why I need you to keep going. I need you to show up, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when the enemy tries to convince you that it's never going to work. Because the shift is coming, and it will only come to those who refuse to quit. This is the season where you learn to fight past your feelings. This is the season where you break the cycle of inconsistency. This is the season where you stop being led by emotions and start being led by discipline. Because real growth isn't birthed in comfort, it's forged in commitment. So what is your Jericho? What have you been circling? What dream, what calling, what assignment have you been marching around, waiting for a sign, waiting for something to shift? This is not the time to sit down. This is not the time to stop. This is the time to keep marching, keep pushing, keep believing, keep trusting that what God spoke over your life will come to pass if you do not give up. And I won't lie to you. It might not happen overnight. It might not even happen the way you expected. But if you keep showing up, something powerful will happen. Something inside of you will shift. You will look back and realize that the very thing you thought was going to break you was actually building you. The struggle was making you stronger. The process was preparing you. And then one day it clicks. The things that felt impossible become second nature. The steps that felt unsteady become secure. The habits that felt forced become a lifestyle. And you realize that God was shaping you all along, so don't stop. Don't quit. Show up until it clicks. Because when it does, you'll understand that every step, every sacrifice, every moment of perseverance was worth it.